What an exciting time to be alive as a musician.
That's a controversial take.
Yeah. Contrary to public opinion about music, I think it's a really exciting time to be a musician.
I agree.
Man, AI and DAWs, stem separation, all the way through to some pretty exciting stuff that's happening by Ableton very recently, which I'm really excited about.
Do you remember when people were like, stem separation can never be a thing. It's baked into the audio. And then now we have stem separation.
Yeah, now look where we are.
I used to tell people that. I was like, there's no way stem separation will ever be a thing.
You know what my teacher used to say? You can never always have a calculator in your pocket.
Oh, I've got one on my wrist most of the time. So Ableton just released Extensions.
Ableton's just released Extensions.
Which I was not expecting. That was a little bit out of the blue.
Yeah, man. Point update's going to be gone forever. Are we just going to be on Ableton 12 forever, just with many different extensions up until forever? Man, I'd be excited about that.
Yeah, I don't know what they can add now in Ableton 15 really.
Oh, I mean, extensions don't really attack the core code of Ableton, right? There's just like, hey, here are these things you can tack on.
That's true,
make your...
But what I mean is it's got to the point where, sure, there's things that could be better in Ableton and stuff, but there's no glaring gaps in terms of like, I wish it had this. I'm like, it's pretty thorough.
Yeah.
And when you blow the door open with Max for Live and Extensions, it's like, here's the platform, and just do whatever.
You know, the market for Max for Live is already enormous.
Yeah.
The amount of things that you can actually do with Max for Live instruments is just insane. If you're a solo producer and tracking artist and recording at home, and you just need tools to be able to get you to do things, almost everything that you wish you could do has already been sort of like wished into existence with Max for Live instruments. And now you get given the keys to be able to create these extensions to make your workflow a whole lot easier. The friction is gone. Isn't that incredible? Because it's kind of the goal of every DAW ever, right? Has been, hey, let's get your idea from your head into the machine as quickly as possible. And we just always had to prescribe to someone else's idea as to what that workflow is. Now it's completely up to you and your imagination.
And in the announcement video, they clearly imply that they want you to use LLMs to write code to make extensions.
Yeah. Man, even the guys out of Google are vibe coding if Alberta Tech is to be believed. But,
and they say like build whatever. Ableton is saying create using all of these tools. Here's how you can do it. Obviously, it requires some coding knowledge, but what does that even mean these days?
Look, given my day job, it makes a lot of difference to have some sort of understanding of coding from an institutional perspective. But just writing the code, just cutting the code, I think it makes sense to have your LLM harness and your buddy just do that with you. I think it's a massive deal. So what are the specifics? How is this accessible? Extensions in... What are we talking about here? We're talking about Ableton Extensions and the SDK that's available for that now in live beta, and it allows the everyday DAW user to supplement their workflow with a bunch of extensions to make them get their ideas from brain to machine as quickly as possible and to reduce as much of that friction. Or it can allow you to play Doom with an Ableton. Or we can play Flappy Bird in the middle of our session.
But did you see that the Flappy Bird one inputs MIDI notes?
Yeah.
What a great way to write. Who needs a MIDI generator? You can just play Flappy Bird to write your song.
You're absolutely right. This could blow the door wide open again for music education, right? Because I mean, you could gamify music theory using extensions to be like, hey, this here's a game that you need to play with extensions, and whatever you output in your project, send that to your teacher for marking.
I just don't even know where to start with these extensions. Like, I hadn't thought of that, but that's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, that's the thing. Don't even know where to start. We can't mention Ableton Extension SDKs without mentioning what is going on with other DAWs and how they're approaching extensions. And traditionally, it's been a very closed loop. Most of the DAWs that I've used in my lifetime don't really have this sort of open-ended SDK development infrastructure. Reason certainly doesn't. Cubase Pro Tools certainly doesn't.
So what's the state of AI and DAWs right now. We've got everyone doing stem splitting because that's the buzz.
Because that's the demand, I guess.
Isotope has been doing machine learning stuff with their mastering plugins for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we known that for a bit.
Which I've always been a big fan of. Waves has been doing a bunch of stuff with... They've got the generative sample tool. I haven't tested it yet. I've seen it. I was never like super inspired because I don't really care about generative features when it comes to creating music.
Yeah, in terms of enablement for the everyday musician is amazing. We have such a long and fruitful road of AI development in order to make your human ideas a reality.
We've talked a lot about the idea of removing friction in terms of music production and how we can have AI do that. Tell me what you think it should look like in terms of utilizing AI inside Ableton.
Where do you begin? Where do you begin? How does it look like as far as AI usage in Ableton's concerned? There is an avenue for AI in extensions development, which would essentially is the most practical way to reduce friction. It means that you can use AI tools to help you develop extensions to be able to set up exactly the workflow that you want. I cannot stress how powerful that is. For you to be able to have your DAW reflect your own brain and your own way of doing things with all of the tools and all of the Extension SDK functions that are currently available, like that is so insanely powerful.
Because that's how people are using Claude and stuff right now, setting up second brains and setting up workflows and automations to be custom to how they want their system to behave.
It's a no-brainer that would be extended to DAWs.
We don't have that right now in DAWs.
Whoa,
you can set up templates. You can do all kind of like you have to work within the bounds of what the software tells you it should be.
Yeah, there's this kind of age-old idea. It's more of a age-old antithesis between the idea drives the software and then the software drives the workflow. Our ideas define how the software is built at a much more micro level, and that is super exciting. It means that you as a music educator is very different to you as a musician in terms of the workflow that you actually require. And typically you've done this by creating all sorts of different templates and all sorts of different sort of pocket use cases that you kind of just apply, and it's an okay representation of like what your needs are. All of a sudden you can sort of mesh all those worlds together because you're essentially creating a DAW that works for you. And so like there are so many different takeaways from this. It means that you're able to, like, I think at the very lowest level, these extension SDK tools allow you to create stuff to improve your workflow. But I think at a higher level, you're essentially changing how the whole DAW functions around you. And it does bear mentioning, dear listener, that these extensions can't be triggered externally. They're always something that you're going to be sort of triggering as a right click within the DAW, as far as we know, as far as things happen at the moment, which means that no external triggering, therefore no external sort of LLM input can automate any of these tasks. It's not really designed for automation in a traditional sense, in a if this then that sense. But
do you know if it can be set up to be triggered by macros at the moment?
I don't know.
Or is it only context menu?
I'm currently in the space of deep diving into each one of these individual functions within the SDK. So I'm creating sort of a mind map of what all this stuff does, and it'll give you a bit of an idea as to how things do. And you can obviously query, in my case, I love Claude. We can obviously sort of interrogate Claude to see whether the Extensions SDK package can actually do something. Yeah, once I finish my deep dive, we can have a really good understanding as to whether things can be triggered by macros.
Yeah, because I don't know if it's possible, but it would be super cool if, like, you could have MIDI controls set up to trigger certain extensions to do different things.
Yeah. I don't think a lot of people are talking about how this is going to change the live game. Your ability to express yourself electronically live, way more configurable than ever. And we thought that tools like Ableton, especially with the Move interface, were more expressive than ever. You know, Push and Move and Ableton and taking that stuff live was already pretty configurable and quite expressive. Now with extensions, again, the possibilities are endless here. You could create super custom live environments to not only fit your workflow, but to be able to be more expressive and electronically be as out of the box as possible in terms of your set. You know, like you're going beyond a lot of the limitations that we typically be experiencing in a live environment.
It's because we were talking about how we wanted DAWs to use AI to allow us to do things with less friction.
Yeah.
And when we were discussing that, I don't think like the idea of extensions was even a thing at that point. Like one of the things that you talked about is being able to tell your DAW that you want a synth sound like this and have it build one from scratch using the tools in the DAW.
Yeah. That was one of the first things that really blew my mind about AI's application to music.
Because you'd done that with Claude, hadn't you?
Yeah. You know, there was a synth that was, again, by Flume, that was pushed pretty hard a couple of years ago. It's this generative AI synth that you could feed it an impulse response or feed it a sample and it would do its thing and produce a sound that was very, very close to, if not the exact thing.
Mm-hmm.
So there have been plugins like this for quite a while that have been able to actually produce this. But it always had a licensing cost, right? You needed to spend money in order to get your hands on this particular. Now, to just natural language query an LLM to be able to tell you using in the box instruments how to be able to reproduce this particular sound is just insane. It deepens your understanding of the tools in the box, which I think we are all guilty of getting excited about the next big plugin that comes in and never really learning end to end what the stock instruments are and how they actually function. And in Ableton's case, in Reason's case, in the case of Fruity Loops, like shout out to Hammer. Oh my God, Hammer's an outrageous tool. The ability for you guys to be able to use those tools out of the box, like to its fullest extent, already satisfies like 95% of what I think your sonic needs are. And that's kind of what their deal was, right? But to query Claude as to how to take advantage of that means that you learn those tools beautifully, you know, and you're able to produce these sounds relatively quickly. Again, reducing that friction, because then you can start with an idea in your head rather than having to cycle through samples. Man!
See, this is the generative AI that I want inside a DAW.
Yeah.
You know, to be able to find a patch and be like, this is almost what I want, but it needs to be more like this, and then have it be like, oh great, here's an updated patch that's more like that. Here's what I changed. Yeah. So you can be like, oh okay, to get that sound, it needs these adjustments. Yeah. Like what a fantastic education tool.
Oh man, from a songwriting tool and a production standpoint, the key to creating great ideas is variation. And the more variations that you create on a thing, that ends up becoming the spice of your mix and the spice of your actual song, because you were taking an idea and you're elevating it. Hey, what if I just made this change? What if I just made that change? And created these variations to create more interesting music. To make that frictionless and to basically ask an LLM, hey, I want to vary this particular idea in this way, how can I do that? And for it to sort of break down those barriers so you can create these variations and ultimately create a more interesting sound or song or production. That's where I see the beauty in all of this.
Because one of the things that I want to be able to do as well is get rid of the clicks, right? So
what do you mean?
Well, if you're programming MIDI and you're putting in chords, writing stuff out.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be able to say, I want this chord progression, I want to start on this inversion of a chord.
Yeah.
Like, I want the chords to be held every bar.
Yeah.
And I want you to follow the closest inversions. Yeah. And to have it spit that out on a MIDI clip.
Yeah.
And then be like, okay, cool, let me make this adjustment.
Yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, I don't have to sit there and manually click, like, 20-something times. Yeah. That would be great. Or, if you ask it to program a basic 4-on-the-floor beat, you know, you can tell it to change the hi-hats. Like, as a producer, you know what you want. I don't think it's cheating to have the AI write your beat out. And then you can be like, oh, these hats need a little more swing. or they need some variable velocity. Like all of the stuff that you do anyway via some clicks or via randomization features in the software to be able to just tell it to do that. And I think the same is true when it comes to the possibility of this type of generative AI in a DAW. You're not removing your musicianship. You still have to know what you're doing. But when you can tell it what to do and have it do that in far less time, now you can focus on the music and actually be creative rather than having to input all of the stuff.
I think, to return to your point...
Oh, one more thought.
Okay.
One more thought. You know, in the last video, you talked about how Ableton, you could sidechain things in 2 clicks. Wouldn't it be great if you could just tell Ableton to be like, okay, sidechain this to my drums? That's even less clicks.
I think there is a philosophical argument to be made about the journey to be able to produce a particular outcome is the learning in itself. And that when you have a generative AI tool as an assistant within a DAW, it does all of that thinking for you. And so therefore you learn less. And that may be true. I think that's more of a case-by-case basis. I think you and I are both in agreement that fundamental music theory is important, and that fundamental understanding of your signal chain and your signal flow is also important. But I also know that when you break those rules, quite often you create something that's new. And when something like generative AI integration within a DAW, it was starting with SDKs, but then moving forward into like a fully enclosed and understood AI assistant within a DAW would blow those doors open for you and not have any of these rules in place. I think that would genuinely lead to frighteningly new things.
I think like there's always a case to be made that you should be educated on like a topic. Do you know what I mean? Okay, like I've talked to you before. I think about the idea around music theory. When you hear people who say, I don't like music theory, I don't need to know music theory, that's a very ignorant statement, because everybody learns music theory. If you're not going to learn how music theory actually works in the traditional way, what you're saying is, I'm going to come up with my own version of music theory that I'm going to figure out on my own. And like, it's never going to be as thorough or as universally useful as actually just learning what music theory does. And anyone that says, oh, I learned some music theory and it like limited me creatively, hasn't learned music theory properly, or like...
I don't think anybody who's ever really learned music theory properly has said that. Right? There's like, oh, this opens a new door to that.
Yeah, like music theory and expanding your base level of understanding around a subject only ever makes you more creative. And I think there's still a case to be made for... Like I've heard people talk about this when it comes to vibe coding. They say that because AI is doing all of these steps, people get less sharp in terms of their ability to actually do the task. And so I think there is an element of that where if you aren't doing the thing, you kind of might get a bit rusty at certain steps of it. But I don't think in this case... It's not
really a sentiment that,
Well, I don't think it applies to stuff that's like you're not going to lose your edge inputting MIDI notes. Do you know what I mean?
The thing about vibe coding is that it naturally stops you thinking about the semantics of the actual code and starts to get you thinking more about systems. And that same thing applies to music. You stop thinking a lot about MIDI inputs and signal flow in the micro, and you start to think about, what's the end state here? Institutionally, what are you trying to build?
I think it's a similar thing to how DJing evolved, right? Like back in the day, it was like all about actually beat matching manually, and that was a massive skill. And then that became a redundant skill, although some people still enjoy doing that kind of thing. And then so now you can like beat match automatically and all of that kind of stuff, and now people are like nervous about what's coming next in regards to DJing, because they're like, oh, it's making it more automatic, and it's like, yeah, there's a lot of automated tools and stuff, but you can still do whatever you want, and there's ways to use things creatively.
I always thought that people that got hung up about beat matching versus not beat matching, auto BPMs versus not versus auto beat matching versus manual beat matching, completely missed the point. Completely missed the point. Your job is to get people to move. And it's half entertainment, half information. It's a completely varied role depending on the crowd that's in front of you. The fundamentals of DJing have never changed. Your ability to read a crowd and your ability to produce and curate the right selection of songs in order to get those people moving.
Yeah.
In whatever way or shape that you want to, whatever gets you hired for the next gig. But man, we're on that precipice for DAWs at the moment.
Yeah.
It's such an exciting time to be alive. Which it should bear mentioning again that this isn't a full DAW chatbot assistant.
No.
This is a step towards it.
Yeah.
And you can build all of these Swiss Army knives that you want in order to make your workflow better.
Mm-hmm.
But it is not a chatbot. It is not a NAN style automation either. It is, and we will get there.
Yeah.
And
I hope we get there. I hope that we don't just end up with generative AI inside of DAW. Well, I don't think we will. DAWs are too focused on creating music.
Yeah, and I think the producer is always going to want like a high level of control, a controlling. Do you have any ideas as to what you'd use extensions for?
I don't know. Like, it's that whole thing about like when you can do anything, it becomes hard to do anything because everything is an option, right?
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I don't know right now.
There are so many. It doesn't matter how good the workflow is inside of a DAW. There's always an element of hard work, and stuff that you need to do in order to get that done. I
mean, one thing that I can think of that would immediately just be useful from a purely mechanical point of view is right now my teaching template session, which has every single rock skill track in it, they're not warped.
Yeah.
Because I can't be bothered doing that with hundreds of tracks.
Yeah.
So if I could make a thing that automatically warped every single one of them, I don't know how it knows what the... But there's the thing, I could easily run something in Claude that goes through all of the PDFs, finds the appropriate tempo for every single one of these songs, and then feeds that into an extension in Ableton pretty much, and warps it. So every single clip that I have could be warped. That would save me so much time.
The basics of data pipelining are all there, ingestion, indexing.
Or remember when we were on the phone the other time and I said that I'd spent the last half an hour manually going through every single clip, removing the first part of the title to make it easier to read. I was just like mindlessly doing that in the background while we were chatting. That could probably have been automated if I'd have waited a couple of months.
I mean, like a really great idea I had for an extension is sample randomization. In order to get your creative juices flowing, sample randomization in terms of not randomization of the sample itself, but randomization of the effects that I actually put on the sample in a workflow in order to generate new ideas within certain parameters.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, take that idea and run with it. I think that, and like all these other examples that people have already put forward, like turning an image into MIDI files, or workflow wise,
Jacob Collier won't have to play it anymore.
Yeah, and then all the real boring stuff, batch renaming, batch indexing, finding stuff in Explorer. Yuck. Yeah, there's just, all that stuff can just be fully automated. That's that's stuff that's in and out of Ableton in this case. I think this puts other DAWs on notice, man.
Yeah.
It really puts the pressure on other DAWs to be as open about these things and to create these tools.
Well, when they announced it, when they released it, Max for Live I think is still great and still has a place.
Yeah.
But like, my first reaction when I saw that they'd done this and when I saw that their positioning was encouraging you to use chatbots and encouraging you to make stuff. They're not precious about protecting the Ableton environment. It's like, do things, go play. I was like, that's really cool. But the immediate impression that I had was I was like, oh, Ableton's in a different category now.
Yeah.
It felt like, my immediate thought was like, oh, here are DAWs and now Ableton's over here.
Yeah.
And like, Ableton's always been like a little bit different in terms of its workflow and it being focused very heavily on live usage.
Yep, I agree.
And then FL Studio's also been like a little bit different in terms of its workflow. And then you've had like Cubase and Reaper and Pro Tools and Logic that are a little more traditional in terms of their workflow.
Yep.
But like when this got announced, I was like, oh, Ableton's in a different category now. Ableton's no longer just a DAW. It's an open source playground, basically.
I think the team at Ableton is really thinking differently about what the future of music production actually is going to look like with the advent of all of these tools.
You can see this as well when you go on their site and they've got push and move and their note application and all of their education tools, and now they're doing this. Ableton's building a complete like ecosystem around making music.
Ableton seems like they're building all of the foundational blocks they need to allow for pretty incredible generative AI extension of its use.
Yeah.
Shout out to the guys at Ableton. We see you. We know what you're doing. This is incredible.
Well, we've said for a long time that push essentially makes Ableton an instrument.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
This kind of like does that even more, I think. It removes the boundary of Ableton as a DAW.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, what is Ableton anymore? I don't know. Like, it's got push, it's got move, it's got note, it's got these things. It's like, what does a DAW even mean anymore? Because you can use Ableton as an instrument.
I want Ableton to be an extension of your musical brain.
Yeah.
And so I want Ableton to have all of the musical context that I've generated over my lifetime as a musician, and then all of its smarts in order to be able to translate that into something musical on demand. And so that would truly limit the friction that exists between you and computer. And foundationally, that starts with all of the tools, all of the command line and interface tools, all of this SDK function library, and having that firmly ingrain itself into a traditional software development landscape and infrastructure and tools, and then having Claude on top of that. Max for Live this doesn't make Max for Live irrelevant. In fact, I think this amplifies the need for Max for Live. And as Ableton builds out its MCP server utility and function, as they continue to build out these Extensions SDK tools, I think that slots even further into Max for Live's vision. And this is going to truly open the doors for citizen developers like you and I to really get into creating a musical extension of yourself, not just musically, but electronically and digitally.
I think none of these tools are perfect yet. Like, there's been people who have criticized the rollout of these extensions and are skeptical about their use case, and they still currently have to be triggered manually and all of this stuff. There's a lot you can say to criticize it as well.
Yeah.
But like, I am excited because I think this is continued step towards a future. Yeah. It becomes even easier to make music with a DAW.
Yeah.
Like, the barriers are falling away.
Yeah.
And like, it's not that, like, I feel like people are looking at the problems that they see with how this stuff is, well, the problems that still exist because it's new, it's fresh, it's like, it's new technology. People are looking at it and they're going like, oh, you know, there was still a bit of rubble over there. It's like, but the walls are coming down. Let's focus on the big picture here.
Yeah, I'm bullish on all of this.
Yeah,
for
and
the hard-working musician. I'm bullish on all of this for the musician that slaves away learning their craft and putting the hours into their instrument and understanding that, because this is a natural extension of all of that. You know, this amplifies all of the work that you've put into being a well-rounded musician.
This only enhances your capacity.
Exactly. So we're really sort of throwing down the gauntlet as to being super excited about all this sort of stuff. The future is bright for AI in music production, music creation, and workflow friction just dissolving away.